What is up, everybody? Luke Film Boss here, and it is time to rank every movie that I saw in 2024. I already got the list of movies that I thought were bad out of the way. There's a video out. You can see me rank all the 22 films in 2024 that I deemed as bad. All of them I saw in theaters, save for one Netflix movie. And now it is time for me to rank every movie that I deemed as a good film or even a great film. There's 46 movies on this list, so I'm going to skim through most of them till I get to the top 10. And I saw every single one of these in theaters that are new in 2024. So without further ado, let's get into it. 46 would be Red 1, 45 would be Godzilla x Kong, both with a 66%. In 44th place with a 67% is Deadpool and Wolverine, and I kind of owe a little bit of an explanation for this one because this film became one of the most successful films of all time, and it's very widely received as a pretty good film, especially from the fans. I just thought that it had a lot of writing problems, not to mention it's really just a typical modern day Marvel movie. Despite the fact that it pokes fun at modern day Marvel, it still ended up just being one of those movies, just a little bit more self-aware, which didn't change the fact that it was just a decent, silly, fun Marvel movie. It really is just that, and that's why it's ranked so close to silly, dumb movies like Red One and Godzilla x Kong, because I found enjoyment out of it, but I just didn't think that it was really that smart or as good as it thinks it is or wants to be. And even the parts of it that would have elevated it, because I think that this movie kind of undermines the previous films that came before it, it just got lower for me. Arthur the King with a 68%. Civil War with a 70%. In 41st place, Joker Folie à Deux with a 70%. I understand why everybody hates this movie, and I acknowledge that it has a lot of problems, but I thought it was actually a decently made film. 40th place with a 71% is Bonhoeffer. 39 is Trap. 38 is Mean Girls, and 37 is Moana 2, all with a 73%. Lord of the Rings War for the Rohirrim with a 76%. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire with a 77%. Bob Marley One Love with a 79%. 33 The Dead Don't Hurt, and 32 Abigail, both with an 80%. In 31st place is Challengers, and 30th place is The Fall Guy with an 81% each. In this order, Conclave, Twisters, and Unsung Hero with an 83% apiece. In 26th place is Sonic the Hedgehog 3 with an 83.5%. It just edged those other three out. In 25th place is Sight with an 84%, a surprisingly good movie. In this order, Heretic, Horizon, and America's Saga Part 1, Speak No Evil, and The Forge, all with an 85%. Beetlejuice with an 86%, right behind The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, also with an 86%. Fly Me to the Moon, We Live in Time, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and Piece by Piece, all with an 87%. Coming in at number 14 is Transformers 1 with an 88%. Coming in just slightly ahead of Transformers 1 is The Wild Robot with an 88.5%. In 12th place with an 89% is Monkey Man. And coming just outside of the top 10 at number 11 with a 90% is The Bike Riders. In 10th place is Sound of Hope with a 90%. This was such a heartwarming yet sad movie that shows you the reality of foster care and adoption, while also showing how powerful and impactful one community can be. In 9th place with a 90% is White Bird, another movie that was both sad and heartwarming that really shows you the contrast and power of love over hate. In 8th place with a 90.5% is Alien Romulus, a very surprising action thriller / horror movie that pays homage to the original two Alien films while also being creative and different enough with its story to feel like its own thing, while also having that nostalgic feel that makes you feel like you're watching a classic Alien movie. In 7th place is Smile with a 91%. This movie was so surprising. It's emotional, it's captivating, it honestly makes you feel like you're having this character's anxiety while watching the movie. It's like, what's going to happen? There's so many twists and turns. The plot twists are downright mind-boggling, and it ends with a kind of frightfully disturbing yet satisfying conclusion, but in a sad way. In 6th place with a 92.5% is Cabrini, I already did a review on this movie where I said this movie was Oscar worthy. I still think it's one of the best movies of the year, and yes, I hold fast to that statement. I think Cabrini should get nominated. It's probably not going to happen, but I would say Cabrini is still Oscar worthy. It's a very emotional story. It's serious, but yet, you feel that bit of hope that's in there. And obviously, there's a theme going with Angel Studios movies where it's focusing a lot on helping the orphans, helping children who are being lost or mistreated or abused. And this movie just captures it probably perfectly, or at least as close to perfectly as we've seen so far. Rounding out the top five, in fifth place is Furiosa with a 92.5%. This movie is not Fury Road, but it is still a wild ride. The cinematography, special effects, action is just mesmerizing to look at. The story is surprisingly compelling, with Dementis being this really good villain, acted by Chris Hemsworth. He did a fantastic job. And then Anya Taylor-Joy as the star role as Furiosa, and seeing where she came from to where she ended up before Fury Road made her story in that feel a little bit more complete. It gave us a little bit more background, and it still works without this movie. Fury Road still works, but I think this movie gives a lot more depth to Furiosa as a character. In fourth place with a 93% is Ordinary Angels. And I already did a review on Ordinary Angels, as I did for Cabrini and Furiosa, but I'll say some of the things I said again. Ordinary Angels is such a captivating, emotional story. I think I cried like 10 times, like I think I said in my review. It's just such an incredible story of this ordinary guy who lost his wife and has a sick, dying daughter, and how the community and the people around him just come and try to help him. And even though he might not like it sometimes, he might have a little bit of pride in him that says he wants to do it himself. He wants to be the man and do things himself. He eventually realizes that he can accept the help of others and then help them in return. It's a very powerful story. Would absolutely recommend. In third place with a 93% is Inside Out 2. Now, at first, I wasn't completely sold on this movie, even after the first time I watched it. But after watching it a second time, I can confirm that Inside Out 2 is, in fact, a great film. It's not as good as the first, which I think is one of the best movies of all time, but it is definitely a worthy follow-up. It is not your typical mandated Disney slash Pixar sequel. It actually has a lot to say. It has a lot of heart and soul, and the messages are just really good and really encouraging and uplifting and uh, informative to young people who watch this movie and are kind of making that transition into puberty. They're in those stages of getting anxiety and stress, especially in today's day and age where that is very prevalent. It was a good movie that reminds us that we don't have to be dictated and controlled by our emotions, that we can actually take control of our emotions, and that we are not the sum of our emotions. We are the sum of our choices. We are the sum of who we are, and our emotions do not dictate that. In second place with a 93.5% is Dune Part 2. What an epic, incredible movie. This is like as close to Lord of the Rings in modern day that we are going to get, both in quality and in its just cinematicness. It's quite frankly, I don't know if we're going to be able to top this movie in pure visual splendor and wonder and creativeness. Yes, it's being adapted by a book, but so is Lord of the Rings, and so is like any other really good form of media. And Dune 2 is absolutely a masterclass. It is fantastic. I already did a review, a silly review. You can check it out. But yeah, Dune Part 2 is just interesting. It has so many themes going on. It's just hard to talk about in a 1 minute segment. So yeah, watch Dune Part 2 after you watch Dune Part 1, which is also really good. And in first place with a 94% is the movie Wicked, Part 1 technically. But this movie is literally a dream come true from any filmmaker's point of view. Like any like critic watching this movie is like, this is beautiful. Cinematography, the production design, the singing, the vocals, the acting, Not to mention that the story and the script is worked in a way that it gives you a little bit more time to breathe and feel everything that's happening in this movie. It's quite the cinematic experience. If you have not had the chance to watch this, I would 100% recommend. Even if you're not a Wizard of Oz fan, you might like this. And if you're a Wizard of Oz fan, you will probably most definitely like this. And if you're a Wicked fan, there's no reason why anybody who likes the Broadway show would not like this. It's literally just the Broadway show expanded and brought to the big screen. Absolutely gorgeous, cinematic. Wow. Number one movie of the year for me. You all thought I was serious about Sonic the Hedgehog 3 being in 26th place. Well, you're wrong, because it's actually my secret number one movie of the year, because this movie is literally the most incredible, amazing movie of all time. And if anybody says anything else, they clearly don't know what they're saying, because Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is clearly the peak cinema. Just like the Super Mario Bros. Movie was absolutely incredible, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is unparalleled in every way, shape, or form. The characters, Dr. Eggman in his dancing glory with his grandfather in the laser room. It's cinema. It's pure cinema at its finest. Yeah, that's a joke again. I did a similar joke in the bad movies, but yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is a good film. 26th place still, not number one. Sorry, everybody. Thank you all for watching, everybody. Please don't hate me for that joke. And you can like, comment, and subscribe if you're not super bitter about the Sonic jokes. Thank y'all. Later.